It's 10 Count Vlog!
Hello and welcome to the 10 Count Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Tiller. Wherever you are and however you're listening, thanks for making us a part of your day. Before we go any further, we're fan and listener supported, bringing this podcast to you for free every Saturday. New this week, we're on Google Play, so be sure to check out the 10 Count Podcast on the Google Play Store, and Android users rejoice. As always, check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud. Subscribe to get the latest podcast downloaded directly to your phone every week. And while you're at it, rate us on iTunes and Google Play. That's the easiest way to support 10 Count Podcast. Rating us helps us grow our audience and hopefully attract some sponsors. You can also visit our website, 10countblog.wordpress.com. We post every podcast there as well as some cool blog entries. This week you can check out a feature story on a new initiative from our partner New Wave Pro Wrestling to cross-promote mid-card champions with other companies around the area. You can also check out our social media and podcast page. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can check out some of the podcasts that inspire us to make 10 Count Podcast great. And last but certainly not least, be sure to check out our local indie promotions page. We've provided some links to the area's hottest indie promotion. That's all at 10countblog.wordpress.com. Well, this week we're switching it up a little bit. We're going to air out some controversy in the meantime, and we brought in a friend of the show, TSW Booker and former champion Zane Arkham, to help us sort out some of the stuff that happened last week at TSW Unleashed from the Blue Jeans Center in Monroe City. Of course, the big story heading out of that show is that the TSW World Heavyweight title is now vacant. For those who follow us on social media, you can check out the last video we posted. Will Bray, after only 2 weeks, vacated the title and had his final match for the company against his brother Benny Bray. Will cited personal reasons in his explanation as to why he's leaving, and while we won't speak for Will, Zane had some issues very similar which nearly resulted in him leaving the company as well. Zane talks about those in depth, but with some tact says to not destroy the life of the person whose alleged transgressions nearly caused the major impact to the TSW roster. We also talk about what's next for that vacated title and get into some analysis of the matches from last weekend's event. Before moving on, we want to make sure we give our friends at Rollick a plug. They've allowed us to use Snorkeling into Oblivion as the official theme song for 10 Count Podcast. Be sure to head on over to Facebook and give them a like. Take a minute and download their latest album, which they're giving to you for free. So get ready for some hard truths, some interesting insight, and some in-depth analysis. Here's our recap of TSW Unleashed.
So I'm standing by with Zane Arkham, and we're going to do a TSW Unleashed recap. And Zane, I think the biggest story that comes out of this show is that Will Bray is no longer with Tri-State Wrestling. Talk a little bit about that, and I mean that it's kind of a hit to TSW. Can't lie about that.
You're right. He was just crowned. He just won the TSW Heavyweight title. And at his next show, he had to vacate it. He did vacate it at the end of the show. He did defend it twice, but it is a big hit that we lost our TSW champion. He's got some things going on, some personal things that are happening in his life, and some other things that really just affected his decision. And he hated to have to go, but that's where life took him for the time being. So doors always open. He knows that. He's more than welcome to come back. But right now, I guess the big question is, where do we go with the TSW title?
Absolutely, and before we go there, I want to kind of revisit, why Will may have left. And I mean, there's a few stories kind of swirling around the blogosphere, around social media, and there are a couple things that are true, a couple things that aren't true. But I want to kind of pinpoint what some of those issues may have been. And of course, we're not going to speak for Will here. We're not going to speak for Zach Hogan, who's also recently departed from TSW. But I know that you had some issues as of late as well and had considered leaving TSW as well. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
No, not at all. It's a pretty sketchy story, to say the least. A few months back, a former TSW, I don't want to say employee because we don't get paid, but a former TSW worker was arrested, and it looked bad on all of us. And a lot of guys took that to heart and took that, how do I want to say, they took it on themselves. Like, it really affected them. And I mean, I'm one of them. I mean, it really did. And this guy is still trying to this day, even after that horrible arrest, trying to get back into TSW. And, me and the owner have finally sat down and talked to him and said, it's not going to happen until this all gets cleared up. Because, I mean, we're a charity company. First and foremost, charity is our thing. We're there to help the people and help the community. And that was just something that made us all look bad. And we're kind of glad that, we're able to say, hey, if you get it fixed, you get it fixed. We'll welcome you back. Probably not going to happen, but the ball's in his court now.
Absolutely. And, through conversations with you, Zane, I have, I've heard from you that, there's really no interest in that party in getting this taken care of, or at least he has not offered to show you proof of his innocence from his transgressions. And for the record, these are things that we don't talk about because truthfully we have no proof, and at this point it's all speculation. And so rather than try and sit and run somebody's name through the mud, we want to make sure that he has every opportunity to try and get back and leave the door open for him to prove his innocence. Is that correct? That's
very correct. I mean, they say you're always, in a court of law, you're innocent until proven guilty, and that's the same way here. It's all speculations. I can't say if he's working on it. I've never seen any proof. Once I do see proof, then hey, I can say, yeah, hey, you're working on it. Great, man. Once this gets settled, bring me the paper, and I will have no problem putting you on a card. But until that happens, my main focus, and it has been for the past 8 years, is, the image of TSW. Right now we're going really strong, and that's my main focus, is protecting our family-friendly image.
And I think that's a great point, because as a charity company, you have to be above reproach. You have to be able to say, hey, these causes that we support, these people that we give our money to, they are protected from the evil that's in the world and the things that people are accused of. And it's a sad story, a lot of times in the court of public opinion, people are crucified and they are, in public or in social media and all that good stuff, it's, guilty till proven innocent. But unfortunately, that's in the climate we live in today, that's the approach you have to take, especially with a company like TSW that does all the work for charity.
You're correct. And like you said, social media is a big aspect of it. I mean, we do a lot of promoting on social media, so, the fans of the family or the friends of the family, they're on Facebook and they're following the TSW, and they see every member of the TSW, whether it be me or the tag champions or anybody, if they're sitting there posting negative about somebody, or even something happens in their life that's negative, they see that. We have to take it into consideration. It's just like the WWE. I mean, you see anything stupid on their Twitter accounts or anything like that where they're putting the company's image at risk, they put a squash to it really quick, and that's the same way with the TSW. I try to stay away from the Facebook drama that goes on. I mean, and there's a lot of it out there, especially right now. Shots have been fired at us, but I'm not going to shoot back. It's just not how I am, and it's not how the company should be ran. We're all about the community, the families that we help, and that's my main focus, and that's what the company's main focus is.
Absolutely, and I think something that parallels this on a WWE level, the recent unpleasantness with Jerry the King Lawler. Of course, for those who don't know, Jerry Lawler and his wife or girlfriend or whatever she is, they had a domestic dispute, both of them taken to jail, and for at least a week or a couple weeks, Jerry Lawler was taken off of TV. And just as WWE, a publicly traded company, has to protect their image, a smaller company like TSW, whenever there's any kind of question about one of their workers and one of their transgressions, it has to be a protection mode. There has to be something that you do there.
Yeah, and I hate to dig up some of our past, but I mean, to say the truth, I'm really hard on this, because 2 times before we've had something like this happen, and we just took the word for the person saying, hey, it's going away, and come and find out it's not, and they ended up going to jail, made us look bad. And that's at the end of the day, my main focus and Barry's main focus is the overall appearance of the company, because we want to be able to help the most people we can. But to do that, we have to have a good image, because if we have a bad image, nobody that needs help is going to come to them. They'll be like, no, not them. No, I'm good. No. So that's the main focus, and I know we've said it a lot in the past few minutes, but, image is everything. Even for like me or you, even in our day-to-day job, if I were to go post something ridiculously stupid or get arrested and make my job look bad, I wouldn't have that job, and neither would you. I mean, you work with the state, I work at just Lonely Family Video, but still, your image matters where you go out, especially if you're the figurehead / face of that brand. Even if it's just one little person, one little employee. Like, I could have one of my employees go out and rob a bank. I'm not going to have that person on the schedule anymore because it makes us look bad. If she would have got away with it, which, that wouldn't happen. But, just not rhetorical. Hypothetically speaking, there we go. That's the word I wanted. But, yeah, so you got to watch your image. That's the main focus on everything.
And again, we like to reiterate that we're not speaking for Will Bray or Zach Hogan or any of the other workers who may have chosen not to work with TSW at this point. We understand their decisions, and I think Zane Arkham and Sweet Daddy B. Barry Baker, I think they get that and understand that. And just talk a little bit about welcoming these people back with open arms. I know you guys have kind of an open door policy about that.
You're right, we do. And first and foremost, I love Will Bray and I love Zach Hogan. Zach Hogan's my brother. I talk to him all the time, just like Sam Knight. Sam Knight's my brother. Love talking to him. We talk wrestling all the time, shoot story ideas back and forth between the two. And we do have an open door policy. I mean, it's always whenever they want to come back, I'd be more than welcome to have them back, and so would Barry. So, I mean, they've earned their spot at whatever company they work at. I mean, they are hard workers. They're great, amazing talent. I'll vouch for all of them always. It's how it'll always be. They're just overall amazing talent. So, I mean, any company, and including us, it'd be stupid to say, no, I'm sorry, you left us. We're not going to let you come back. I mean, no, you guys did amazing. You went out there, gave it your heart. You did everything we wanted. You did everything you wanted. So you're more than welcome to come back.
Absolutely. And Zane, I think this brings us to our next point. Will, of course, when he left, he made a very impassioned speech at the end of Unleashed at Monroe City, and he vacated the title, left it laying in the ring there. So what's next for the TSW World Heavyweight Championship scene?
Well, that's the thing, is with the TSW title is now in flux, because, we actually have two vacated titles. The Southern title, which will be defended this next Saturday between Terrence and AJ to finally decide who's going to be the rightful champion there. But that still leaves the TSW title open for grabs. And, got a meeting with the board coming up to try to figure out what the next step is for that title. Hope to have a champion crowned by August 13th at the latest. But, this is independent wrestling. You never know what's going to happen. And, we didn't expect the will to happen. I mean, it's just like in the WWE when Seth Rollins tore his ACL and all that. They didn't expect that to happen. They had to just run with it on the fly, and I think that's what we're going to have to do with the TSW title. But, I mean, anybody, it's going to be up for grabs. There's a lot of talent out there. I mean, DOC, myself, which I can't wrestle till September 3rd, so I take my name out of there. Terrence, AJ, even though they're embroidered in the Southern title, Stanley Roberts, I mean, even the AWA champion, Benny Bray, Will Bray's own brother, he could be the next TSW champion. We have so much talent that could step up and be the face, quote unquote, of the company. So
absolutely. And I guess the biggest question I think fans will want to know, what are the early ideas? What are the ideas being thrown around by the board, and to crown a new champion? Is there going to be a tournament? Is there going to be just somebody named the champion? I mean, how does that work?
Well, the last thing that I had heard from the board where we were talking was it's actually right now between two things. We're either going to do a battle royale, which I hope to God we don't do. I mean, if it happens, it happens. I don't think a strong champion can be crowned through a battle royal or a tournament. I love tournaments. It's the best way to get your best talent out there, to showcase what they have, and give them all a chance in singles competition to become the next top guy. A battle royale is just a bunch of people in a ring. Luck has it, you get thrown out. You get thrown out. If not, not. It's too much chance involved in it, and I want to see a clear-cut winner. So I choose for a tournament, but the two that are getting thrown around with the board right now are a tournament and a battle royale.
Absolutely, and I think what you said about Battle Royale being a little bit of a luck game. Look at what happened this last week on, I believe it was Raw, with Darren Young winning the number one contendership for the Intercontinental Championship. I mean, he had nothing to do with the final elimination, but yet here he is taking on Miz for that Intercontinental Champion. So one final thing, and I think it's important that we talk about the TSW Championship. Do you have any early indicators of who you would like to see as the champion? Who would you would like to put in that role, or or give them an opportunity even to take on that role?
You know, honestly, it comes down to two people, really, in my mind. Terrence, which, you know, I've had my ups and downs with Terrence, but when it comes to a business standpoint, he's a phenomenal worker, never bitches or complains, busts his ass off and is willing to help. And then I'd have to say my other one would be DOC. Guy comes in, the crowd loves him. He's just got an amazing following. He works his ass off. He's never asked for nothing, ever. Just comes in, does what we need, you know, goes out there, puts on a hell of a match. It's all about the fans. So definitely between those two would be my top two picks for the TSW Championship.
Absolutely, and a couple early contenders named by Zane Arkham for the TSW World Heavyweight Championship. I think either of those guys would represent the company very well. So let's jump off these topics now. I think we've discussed the lead enough at this point. And I want to get into a little bit of match commentary and a little bit of analysis from this past weekend's event at Monroe City Unleashed. And a lot of great matches on this card for kind of a depleted roster, if you will. I mean, a lot of guys were not able to make the show. A lot of the bigger names not in attendance for this match. And just kind of want to go down the list. I think one of the best matches of the evening, and it led off, which was great booking, by the way. I know that's a big compliment to you. But the TSW World Heavyweight title defense, Will Bray versus Baron Dark. Now, Baron Dark is recently out of the TSW Training Academy, but he's showing a lot of promise. Talk a little bit about that.
You're right. He is. He's one of the recent graduates. A lot of promise. I think his biggest thing is he's willing to listen and learn and try to improve. He's always about being better. I mean, I know he messages me. He's got himself a personal trainer now. You know, he's working out. I think, don't quote me on this, he's in his 30s, almost 40. Don't kill me, Baron. I'm spitballing here. But, I mean, he's an older guy, and WWE don't look at those type of guys, but he's still a guy who got into this late, just like Robert Stanley, and bust their ass off working out and in the ring, and now it's already starting to show and pay off. I'm sure other companies would speak differently, and that's on them, but Baron he's an up-and-comer. I mean, I wouldn't, by the end of the year or by even the beginning of next year, he'd probably actually be in the TSW contendership on his own right, not being thrown in there by the board or anything, just earning his spot on the roster just by how good he is and how much he's willing to learn.
Absolutely, and talking to Will Bray during the last Monroe City show, I was talking to him about how the match went really well, and I thought it went well. And Will, one of the first things out of his mouth was, "Yeah, but don't sell Baron short. He actually was really good," and that's a big compliment coming from somebody as talented as Will. And take nothing away from this match. I mean, last time we were in Monroe City, Will was defeated by Baron Dark, and it wasn't a give up or tap out or a pinfall situation. I mean, Baron caught him in a submission. Will passed out. He did not give up, so I think that's important to note. And then Will had a hard fought battle this time around. Talk a little bit about the match in general.
You're right. It was. I mean, both matches were phenomenal. I was really impressed with what Baron and Will were able to put together and go out there and show, and it was just an amazing matches. He did have a hard fought battle. I mean, it was an uphill battle. He knew that he was already coming off of a loss, and he knew he couldn't lose again because this time the TSW title was on the line, and you've seen that in his eyes. But Baron, I mean, what could I say about this guy that hasn't been said already? I mean, he's vicious, he's mean, and he's ready to make a name for himself, and that's what he does every time he steps in the ring. Every time he's booked on a card, you can expect that match to be a vicious beating where he's the one doing the beating. So, I mean, it was a hard-fought victory for Will. He earned it, but at the same time, I think Baron earned a little bit more of Will's respect because he didn't underestimate Will just because he had a victory. He went in there, did the same thing he did before, and just kept on him and did really good. So, I mean, it was a great match. Definitely one of my favorites of the night. But overall, just a phenomenal match between the two of them.
Absolutely, and one of the things I'd like to point out about Baron Dark, of course, he's an up-and-comer, so there's a lot to talk about with this guy because he's relatively unknown. But one of the things that I want to point out personally is that Baron Dark is very athletic for his size. I mean, he's a big dude, played football. I mean, he's got a lot going on as far as size, but he's very athletic, very agile, and can do a lot of different stuff. He moves around the ring very well, and normally that doesn't complement very well with a guy who's Will's style, who's very acrobatic, very fast-paced. So the fact that they gelled well and they were able to put on a good match and Baron was able to keep up with Will, I think was testament to part of the TSW training and some of his training on his own.
I think so too. I mean, I'm not gonna toot my own horn on training, but as I am in charge of training too, I wear mini masks. But Baron, since day one, this is a guy that came late to training. I mean, I want to say that last year he came in, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks before we did our cuts for the personal training. In 3 or 4 weeks, he was catching up to the guys that have been going all year round. So, I mean, it speaks volumes of his dedication and his drive to make this, and every match that he does and everything he does, amazing. You're right, he does have a different style. He is a bigger guy, and surprisingly, he is very agile, and I hope that he works that into his matches because I think he could really surprise a lot of people by being able to do some things that you normally don't see a guy of his size doing.
Yeah, absolutely, and from a fan standpoint, I think it was a very enjoyable match. I think it was a very technical match, and one that I think would be a lot of fun to see again. Of course, we won't see Will again, at least for the immediate future, and I think I look forward to seeing Baron in competition later on down the line.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can see him. I don't know what they have planned for him yet on the 23rd, but he will definitely be in a match, and I bet he'll be trying to top his last match with Will and just trying to go better. So definitely on July 23rd at the Eagles in Vincennes, if you want to see Baron Dark do what Baron Dark does, definitely stop in and see this up-and-comer.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on to match 2 on the card, and this was one of the more fun matches for the evening as well. AJ Riley, of course, he won the TSW title at the last Proving Grounds, and then he didn't, or excuse me, Night of Champions. I apologize for that. He won the title there, and then he didn't. It was taken away. It was held up. Take me through that decision. What happened there?
That was all on the old man and Bareback Jack. I guess from what I saw at the event myself, because I was just sitting in the crowd actually watching that event, the referee, which is actually AJ's brother, did a fast count, quote-unquote, which I know you guys can't see the quote-unquote, but yeah, there's the quote-unquote. And because of that said fast count, the owner and the general manager decided to hold the Southern title up and vacate it pretty much. They didn't give it back to Terrence. They didn't give it to AJ. They said it'll be decided at a later event. So they decided to hold it up. Well, this last show, AJ had a point to prove. He came out to take on Yusuf Merrick, and he was going to show him that no matter what, he's just as good as what it was. And the ref, it wasn't because of the ref. He won that match fair and square. And now on July 23rd, Terrence and AJ one-on-one for the Southern title. There will be a deciding factor in that match.
Absolutely, and that should be an excellent match. But let's talk about the match at hand, AJ versus Yusuf Bey Merrick. Now, AJ he came out just tenacious. I think that's the best word to describe him, was just this vicious, ruthless. I mean, yes, he's a good guy in that sense, but he has a point to prove. He has an axe to grind, and he's looking to prove himself. Talk a little bit about his match with Yusuf Bey Merrick, even with Sweet Daddy B in his corner, obviously trying to cheat as they always do. AJ kind of was able to overcome that rather, and pull out the victory.
It was a good, hard-fought match between the two of them. AJ came out, like you said, he was tenacious. I can't even say the word. I'm just going to say he was pissed, because that's what he was. He was mad. He should be the TSW Southern champion, and the old man stole it from him. So, of course, whoever the old man puts in front of him, he's just going to come out, and he did. I mean, he put a beating on Yusuf. I can't take anything away from Yusuf, because Yusuf did have a decent showing in that match, but at the end of the day, you just couldn't get over the fact that AJ was hot, and he was ready to show that he was hot, and he was going to beat up whoever he had to get what was rightfully his.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great point you bring up about Yusuf Bey Merrick. Love him or hate him, Yusuf Bey Merrick is a good technical wrestler. He got that Eastern style from Iraq. He is a very good wrestler. He knows how to slow his opponent down. He knows how to keep momentum in his favor. Even without Sweet Daddy being his corner, I think that Yusuf Bey Merrick has a lot of merit, if you will.
You're right, he does. I mean, it's not very often that you see that type of style. I mean, him and Abdul are the only two in recent years that you see with that style, and it's a very unique and interesting style that you have to pay close attention to, especially as an opponent, because if you don't and you're not aware, they can easily get the upper hand, and there goes your match, there goes your win, there goes, your title or whatnot, whatever it is. So when you're facing someone like him, you really have to be focused on the now and not about the future. But luckily for AJ, even though he was focused on the future, he had enough sense to stay in the now to get this win on this match. It was great.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and talk about our next match. Alan Angel versus Matt Dawson. And this match, of course, I had never seen Alan Angel at this point. Of course, he'd been with TSW before, went off and worked some more companies, and then came back to work TSW there at Unleashed for first time back in at least a year. So talk a little bit about that match, and talk a little bit about Alan Angel specifically. What made you guys bring him back for this show?
Well, to be honest, Alan, he had worked for the company before, just in some low card, mid card matches, never really striving to be much. But then he stepped away from TSW, like several people do. Went out, got some more training done, worked for more companies, got a little bit more under his belt, and he messaged us and said, "Hey man, if you got any openings, I'd love to come work for you again." I was like, "All right, man, you know what? You left on good terms. Let's go. Let's see what we can do for you. Come on in. We'll put you in a match." And that's how that worked. And he did. He came back, and like you said, him versus Matt Dawson. Matt Dawson is another graduate of the TSW training. Phenomenal kid. He learns with each one of his matches, and he went out there and had a match with Alan Angel, who he's never met before either. And they put on a hell of a showing between the two of them. It's definitely, top match on, not top, but one of the top matches on the card that you got to talk about. Great match back and forth between the two of them. Just overall, both guys are very talented, and I'm glad to have them working for the company.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things I wanted to bring up, or you touched on it there. Matt Dawson is coming along very nicely, a recent graduate of the TSW Training Academy. I've been in a couple training sessions with him myself, and he is coming along, just phenomenally. He's one of those kids who learns very quickly. He goes at it 100%. He doesn't really have any regard for his own body. It's kind of cool to see him take off the way he has, even becoming a TSW champion at this point.
Yeah, you're right. That's the thing is, the one thing I want to say about Matt Dawson real quick too is he's so humble. He always calls me and the owner sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. So that's just awesome. He's so humble to do that. But yeah, he's came in. He's busted his butt in training. He does have little regard for his body, which that'll catch up with him. But he's a young pup, 18 years old, young pup, so he can go do that crazy stuff. But great kid, listens really well, wants to be the best he can be, and he has a real passion for this business. He drives all the way from Kentucky to do these shows. He drives quite a bit to do these free shows and to get this training and to be able to do what we all love. So, he's just an amazing kid, and he's one of those. I'm really glad that he was able to pass the training and get onto the roster.
Absolutely, and one of the things I'd like to point out about Matt Dawson is that he is built for wrestling. He is built for sports entertainment, if you will, because he's a football player. He's got the physique for it. He's got the cardio. He has got all the intangibles, I think, as well. The respect factor you mentioned. I think Matt Dawson has a bright future ahead of him.
I think he does too, but I'm going to give him the warning that I give everybody, and I'm sure he listens to this because I know he listens to the podcast. But, my one advice to him is don't let these other companies or, anybody say it's okay to get an ego, because once you get that ego, that's when people start looking at you with disdain and like, oh, okay, I don't want to work you, or oh man, he sucks, and he's got a horrible attitude. It's the attitude that you have now that makes you just so amazing. Yeah, you got great work, but the thing that sets you above everybody else is the humbleness that you have and just the overall how you interact with everybody that he has, that really sets him apart on my scale. Because I mean, it's one, I'm not that old and I hate being called sir, but it's very humbling to have this kid who respects you enough and respects everything that you're doing for him to go, thank you, sir, I appreciate that. Hey, yes, sir, what can I do? What can I improve, sir? It's just that just shows the type of person Matt Dawson is.
And in comparison, I think Alan Angel also had a very humble demeanor about him to a point. I mean, of course, as much as he can being one of the minions of Sweet Daddy B. But as you said, he came out and put on a fantastic match, showed off some of his skill that he may not have had last time he was with TSW. Talk a little bit about Alan and the way that he worked this match, and how impressed were you in his comeback match, if you will?
To be honest, I was really impressed. I mean, Alan, don't get mad at me for what I'm about to say, because it's just the honest truth or how I feel. But, you weren't the best the last time he was here. I mean, he was missing something. The drive, the passion, I don't know what it was. It's just he was at a plateau in his career, and he was happy there. It was a low plateau, but he was happy. He was at that glass ceiling, and he just wouldn't go through it. Something hit him when he was gone from the TSW to push himself through that glass roof and to improve and to better himself. And now he's come back to the TSW and he's done just that. I was really impressed with the overall match. It was just amazing, to see the transformation from then and now. And, I look forward to, hopefully he keeps smashing through more and more glass ceilings and keeps on improving and keeps changing the way everybody looks at him and sees him.
Absolutely, and here's a more candid question for you. Is this a guy who at some point you would consider putting in the title hunt?
The TSW has several titles right now, and yes, I could see him in any one of the title hunts. I mean, if he keeps driving and working his way up like I know and I feel like I know he will, I have no problem. Hey guys, let's think about putting him in one of the titles. He's always loyal to the companies he works, and he's just an amazing guy overall. So definitely something that could be seen in the future is him in a title hunt.
Absolutely, and I think the match itself between he and Matt Dawson, again, you mentioned this at one point earlier, this was the first time these two had ever seen each other, so there was really no opportunity to gain some chemistry. And for the two of them to go out and put on a match as good as they did, I think that speaks volumes about both of these guys.
You're right, it does. I mean, that's the one thing about the indies is you never know. Sometimes you might not know the guy that you're facing and never met him a day before in your life, and now you've got to go out in front of hundreds of people and put on a show, put on an entertaining match. And it's hard, but they did a very good job going out there. They put on one hell of a match. I'm proud of both of them, and I'm proud of the match. I mean, it represented the company very well.
Absolutely, and another one of those matches I think that doesn't necessarily look good on paper, but it came out very well in the ring and in practice. So let's move on to our next match on the card, and Blaine Black versus Luke Wilder. Again, both the Southern Shiners in action in singles action until this one kind of broke down. Now let's talk about the start of the match at the very beginning. Blaine and Luke actually had a really good match. I think they went for about 10 minutes before things kind of devolved. Of course, Blaine Black was on the podcast last week, talked a little bit about some of his influences. Definitely one of the more charismatic and we'll say unique performers on TSW's roster versus Luke Wilder, a guy who will be on the podcast very soon and is a self-admitted UFC MMA type fighter who went 7-1 as an MMA fighter. And I think this is a great match for this particular this division, this tag team division in TSW, which is very, very strong.
And you're right. Both of these competitors are phenomenal. I've known Blaine for several years. He's worked for the TSW, for countless years. I don't think quite as long as me, but it's up there. And then Luke, I actually know from when I used to travel around between companies and wrestle for other companies before I retired doing that and just stuck with the TSW. I'd met him in other companies, and I'd seen him work, and I've seen him do the UFC thing. And, it's just these two, Luke and Matt are the tag team champions. Blaine and his former partner, who's now their manager, Patrick Taylor, they were the former tag team champions. And they want their titles back. And I mean, it's been a great story between the two. It's good to finally see that just one-on-one, it started out that way, I should say. One-on-one, I mean, it looked like it was going to be a solid match between the two of them, where you never knew who was going to win, because both these competitors just went out there and gave it their all. But lo and behold, we always know how the Chaos Carnival goes, and they always play the numbers game. It's like 5 or 6 or whatever, 90 on one, until Matt Dawson came out for the save. And then I issued the challenge and said, hey, why don't you guys get back in the ring and make it a tag match instead of being the little pussies that you are and just jump them from behind. Patrick Taylor thought that he was going to badmouth him, like, you're not the general manager. I don't care if I'm not the general manager. I issued a challenge. Are you a coward? Get in the ring. So they got in the ring, and it turned into one hell of a tag team match. But, you know, once, like always, Chaos Carnival had to cheat to get the upper hand.
Absolutely, and one of the things I want to talk about that I think is most important about this particular rivalry and this particular match happened at the end of the match when Chaos Carnival jumped Anderson Grimm. Of course, Anderson has he's been filling in for Patrick Taylor, who's been out nursing a concussion issue, wanted to make sure that he has all of his impact tests and everything in line before he comes back. Do you have any clue what that was about?
Honestly, if I had to put my finger on it, I don't think it was so much as them kicking him out of the group. I think it was more of a, how do I want to say, I think because of what Anderson did to Johnny Watts at Night of Champions with that steel chair, I think Blaine was mad. And I think that's what Blaine was just trying to show him was, hey, I'm mad at you. You hit my mentor, the kid, you know, I've had a huge rivalry against. I learned a lot of stuff in between our rivalries. You know, that was mine. You shouldn't have took that from me. That was me. I should have been the one, not you. And I think that's what it was in the end. I don't think it was them trying to say, hey, you're out of the group, F you. I think it was just Blaine saying, watch yourself. Don't take what's mine, because I'll take it out of your hide in the end.
Absolutely, and I think it's important that we talk about Johnny Watts, and I'm glad you brought that up because Blaine, of course, came to the ring and paid homage to Johnny, had some of his gear with him and hung it on the ring as a tribute in part of that match, which is very deep for somebody like Blaine who typically does not have that level of depth to his character. Talk a little bit about that.
You're right, he did. He paid homage to Johnny. You know, these two have, over the past year, beat the living hell out of each other, improved each other's career dramatically, and, you know, it's... Even today, if Johnny Watts was still wrestling, I'm sure he would pay homage to Blaine Black out of respect for what they have put themselves through. And, you know, that's what I was surprised, just like you were, to see Blaine, who normally doesn't have that functionality, I'm guessing is what I want to say, to think of doing something like that. But he did. He paid the respect in a way. But at the same time, I know if Blaine could, he'd rip Johnny's head off.
Absolutely. Loaded elbow pads for days, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. So, but I think ultimately that was a great match. And then when it devolved into a tag team match, Anderson Grimm, I think he brings a certain unique style to Chaos Carnival, which they didn't necessarily have. Of course, we all know the story about Chaos Carnival. Patrick Taylor is the strong man. Blaine Black is the freak show. And I've always said that I view Anderson Grimm as kind of the fire breather, or maybe the carny who takes the money at the games. He brings a unique perspective to Chaos Carnival, and I think one of the things that sets him apart is that he is not afraid to go as extreme as he needs to.
And see, and that's the one thing that has burned Anderson so much. And me and him have talked about this, is he has a bad rep because he is the hardcore guy. I mean, when I was the hardcore guy, I had a bad rep. And I got burned in a lot of companies because that's all I wanted to do was hardcore. But then I realized there was something else to wrestling than just hardcore. And that's what he's seeing now. So he's trying to bring something. And like you said, he brings that uniqueness, whatever it is, to the Chaos Carnival, which is something they need because it sets them apart from every tag team in the history of the TSW. Because, you know, you have the generic Team A, the generic Team B, and then you have the Chaos Carnival, where you don't know, they don't fit a certain mold. They create their own, and that's just something that's really amazing about the group. Love them or hate them, it's an amazing group. You know, they make it work with their talents. They're a different spade, and they all work together amazingly to get the job done.
Absolutely, and of course, Chaos Carnival comes out on top in that match from Unleashed. One of the better matches of the evening, I think, and definitely would give that an A+ rating if we were rating these. I want to move on to the next match now on the card, and this one is quite interesting for me. Of course, it featured the debut of Cole Adams, another guy out of the TSW Training Academy. We've said that a lot this evening, but I think it speaks to the strength of TSW that we've got so many guys coming out of the TSW Training Academy and putting on good matches. Of course, Cole Adams, the skater, great talent, I think, and to be as young as he is. And I don't want to mention his actual age, just in case somebody out there is listening and wants to make a stink about it. But Cole is a young kid. He is he's very intelligent and very mature for his age. You'd never guess how old he actually is if you didn't know. And one of the things I want to say about Cole is that he went out against a seasoned veteran in Terrence, a guy who can work very well and put on a great showing, put on an excellent match with Terrence. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, first and foremost, Cole Adams, and you're right. He is young, but the thing is it doesn't matter how young he is. The kid came in, bust his ass off. His parents are okay with what he's doing. All the papers are signed, so whatever. Yeah, there's going to be people out there that say he's too young, and I've got 2 words for you. I'm not going to say them because I'm not that mean, but I got 2 words for you, and it's not suck it either. Rhymes with that.
PG show.
Rhymes with that, but no. But this is a kid who has had a passion for this business. He's gone to independent wrestling since he was like 10. Been to like all kinds of shows all over Indiana. Nobody would talk to him because he's too young. I'm not afraid to train a young boy. I talked to his parents. I had a sit-down conversation with his parents, and they were okay with everything. He came in, busted his butt to learn everything he is. He's so humble, wants to try everything he can, wants to get in there, and, finally his singles debut happened. Just so happens against Terrence, one of the bigger names on the card, bigger names in the locker room, too. Terrence has been with the company over a year. Phenomenal talent. And, he came out there, did a very impressive showing. He didn't let Terrence's level, quote unquote, his station in the company, scare him. He went out there, put on a hell of a match, gave it his all, and in the end, he pulled out the victory. It may have been a count-out victory, but a W is still a W.
Exactly, it goes down on a W on the as a W on the record. So let's talk a little bit about Cole's performance and break it down just a little bit. I think there were times when he was a little bit timid. Obviously, being as young as he is, he's going to have some room for improvement. Talk a little bit about that.
You're right. It was his first, and I got to say it again, it was his first singles match. He's been in 2 Battle Royales before that, but as we talked about earlier, Battle Royales are just a cluster. And when you're down there, it's just one-on-one. A singles competition match is extremely hard because there's a lot of things that can happen. And, especially when you're brand new, you're young, and, you're in front of all these people, mistakes happen. You get scared. I'm 8 years ago in my first match, I messed up too. It happens. And that's the thing though, but he learned, he walked well, that's what we call walking in the business. You just go from one thing to the next and you just make up for anything that you might mess up. Got a lot of talent on him. I see him working his butt off and getting up there into the mid-card status and possibly becoming one of the big names on TSW, and it's all under him. We give him the space. It's on you to grow, and I think he'll be one of those guys that's going to take that space and run with it.
Absolutely, and I think a high rating would go to Cole for his performance in his first match. So let's flip gears a little bit and talk a little bit about Terrence. Of course, putting Cole with Terrence obviously is good for Cole Adams because you get to work with a seasoned veteran who is going to challenge you and is going to do his best to get you to break. And I think because he didn't break, I think that was one of the most important and one of the victories that Cole could take away. But Terrence put on a great match as well, right up until the craziness that happened there at the end, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but talk about Terrence's performance in this match as well.
You're right. Terrence, there's no taking anything away from Terrence. It's been an honor to have him work for the company over the past year and get to talk with him. He is one of the quietest guys in the back. He's one of the most respectful guys in the backs. He comes in, does what you need him to do, and he doesn't complain. He doesn't bitch. He doesn't start drama. He's just an amazing talent. He walks out into that ring. I've only had one match with him, and I can honestly say, and that was during the course of my cancer, so I couldn't go to my full extent, but that was still one of my most favorite matches because he's just an amazing talent that takes care of whoever he's in the ring with, which speaks volumes for the person because a lot of people just go out there to hurt each other, and that's not good business, and that's not how we should be about. We should be about taking care of each other and putting on a good show, and that's what Terrence does. He goes out there, puts on a hell of a show, busts his butt off, does what he needs to, gives you what you need, and then takes it home, and then goes back to the back, and everything's good. And he's just, it speaks volumes, like I said, for Terrence as a worker, for what he is capable of doing and how he portrays himself.
Absolutely, and just wanted to point out at this point to listeners, yes, we weave in and out of kayfabe. I think that's one of the great things about this show is that we can break that fourth wall down whenever there's a great point to be made. So let's talk a little bit about the craziness at the end of the match with Terrence and Cole Adams. Of course, we mentioned Cole got the victory via countout, and that was because during the course of this match, AJ Riley made his presence known. One of my favorite parts about that, one of the more comical points of the evening, you see AJ just sitting in a chair eating popcorn, and then he makes his way up to the ring apron, sits on the ring apron, he's eating his popcorn. He's throwing popcorn at Sweet Daddy B. Lots of great comedic effect from AJ Riley in an effort to distract Terrence and keep him from getting too involved in his match.
You're right, and I mean, it all boils down to the feud that's going on between AJ and Terrence. You know, AJ believes Terrence, Sweet Daddy, and Bareback screwed him out of a title that's rightfully his, so Papa had tried to screw AJ out of his match earlier in the night, so AJ made his presence known. He sat there and he was eating popcorn, and he was just minding his own business, and Barry got in his face, so of course AJ's going to get back, and it escalated from there, and they had the vacant TSW Southern title was at ringside, and AJ grabbed it, was acting like he was going to walk away with it, made Terrence mad. Terrence took off after AJ, missed the 10 count, got counted out, giving Cole Adams the victory.
10 count. Anyway, I had to plug my own blog there, absolutely. But let's talk a little bit about what AJ did after the match. He did eventually walk away with the TSW Southern title. He was going to hold on to it for until the next show. Talk a little bit about what kind of dynamic he and Terrence should be looking forward to at the next show at the Eagles.
You know, honestly, I foresee them. Well, one, Terrence is going to be mad because AJ walked away with his title, or quote-unquote his title, even though it was vacated. So, yeah, you know, AJ left the building with that TSW Southern title. It's not in the company's hands. It's not in Terrence's hands. Not in Sweet Daddy's Beast. It's in AJ's. And AJ will bring it back when he goes to earn that title for real on the 23rd. And, you know, Terrence, I foresee him now. He's going to walk into this match. He's going to be the angry one. So AJ's got to watch himself. He might have lit a fire under Terrence's ass. PG-13, can still say that. That he wasn't expecting to do. And that could cause this main event match to get a little crazy. So hopefully the official's down for whatever might be thrown at his way.
Absolutely, and I think it'll be one of the more entertaining matches of the evening. Definitely one with the most implications. So, Zane, we're kind of running short on time, but we've got at least one more match to get to, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the match between Will Bray and what was supposed to have been a mystery opponent, but ended up being his brother, Benny Bray. And, of course, it was a World Heavyweight title match. The AWA title was not on the line, and they turned it into a no count-out because it reminded them of their one time at their Grammy's house match. And I'm surprised that I remember that. I've got it written down somewhere. But ultimately, this match turned out to be a lot of fun to watch and a lot of great moments, I think, for Will's last match.
I mean, you're right. I mean, these are two brothers that, you know, they came into the TSW as a tag team, and they rocked the TSW tag team division for the longest time. And, I mean, even elsewhere in other companies, they rock it as a tag team. And to see that Benny was his opponent, I think surprised him, but at the same time, they went out there and they gave one hell of a match. You know, you can't take anything away from Benny. Yeah, he's just a mid-card champion. Doesn't matter. Benny Bray, been at OVW. I mean, he's just a phenomenal talent. He will rock you 7 ways to Sunday in that ring if you don't pay attention to it. Just a phenomenal guy. Will Bray, nothing taken away from him. I've worked him a couple times. I even have a scar on my mouth from where he super kicked my lip off my face. So, I mean, there's nothing that I can take away from either one of them. To see him in a match finally go head-to-head for, the top prize in the TSW was just amazing. Yeah, it was a comical match, and every once in a while it's good to have those. It's been a while since I've seen a good comedy match, and I think that they did an amazing job with what they did. The fans loved it. The fans were happy. I mean, they were saddened afterwards, but, they didn't know that surprise was coming at the end. But through the whole match, they had them going. Through the ups, the downs, it was just an amazing match between the two of them.
Absolutely, and one of the things I'd like to point out, yes, it was a comedy-esque match. There was a lot of comical elements to it, but the things that they did were very technical. I mean, even the parody stuff that they did when Will did the 5-knuckle shuffle, the John Cena, like the whole spiel there, it was still very well done and very well executed, and I think it's well worth watching because I think the crowd was able to get behind them and really get into some of the stuff that they did.
And, you're right. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from, it was a comedy, but they did. It was a very technical match. And, it is a match that we have decided. I was just talking to the guy that makes our DVDs. We've decided that we're going to put that match as a special feature on the Night of Champions Hall of Fame DVD that'll be available at the next show. So if you want to see that match, it's not going to be on YouTube. It's not going to be on our YouTube channel or any other DVDs. It's only going to be a special on the Night of Champions. So definitely get that match get that DVD just to see them, which are $10 at the show. That's a great price for a DVD. Definitely get it to see these two have one of the greater matches in indie history. I know I'll get a lot of dog for that from other people, and that's cool. But in my eyes, these guys went out there and did a hell of a job, and I loved the match, and I know the fans loved it. Everybody loved it from that has seen it. So in my eyes, one of the better matches in the indie scene.
Absolutely. One of the best matches that I've seen in TSW as well. So I do have to ask, though, and we do have to have a little bit of comedy since this was a comedy match on the podcast. What was your reaction when you saw Will Bray come out in that pink boa?
I died. I was standing, as you know, at the foot of the stage and watched this whole match from the beginning to the end. And it's hard to get me to laugh or get involved in a match because, after 8 years in the business, I nitpick everything. It's just how I am. And they had me rolling. There's only been one other match that I've gotten this into, and that was at a UWC match with Sam Knight and Blake Reed. I mean, I was out of my chair watching those guys. Same here, except I was almost on the floor laughing from these guys. But it was just an amazing match that these guys did, and it was hysterical. But they still were able to pull on one hell of a match, even though it was hysterical.
Absolutely, and I think one of the best parts was when they actually went backstage and you could hear them beating each other up backstage and nobody could see anything, and it was ridiculous to just know that these guys were ripping each other apart, even though they were trying to put on some sort of comedy. Anyway, but let's go ahead and let's move on a little bit. Of course, at the end of this match, Will Bray made his announcement. Very tearful and very emotional goodbye from Will Bray. Talk a little bit about that.
You're right, and Will and me, even in the back, saying goodbye to Will at the end of the day was very tearful for me because I love the guy to death, and he knows that, and he tells me all the time he loves me to death. He's great talent. So to see him walk away after winning something he fought so hard to get, it's hard. And even the fans, I had fans after the show saying, hey, is there any way we can get pictures with Will one last time with the TSW title? Yeah, no problem. And, Will was more than welcome to him. But even seeing those fans being how sad they were, it's hard losing somebody that these people connect to. Even if it's a heel, even if you hate them, if they leave, there's a void. Now who are you going to hate? You got to pick a new person to hate. And so it doesn't matter if you love these guys or you hate them. If they're gone and the fans never get to see them again, the fans are left with a blank spot to fill.
Absolutely, and I think I speak for everybody at 10 Count Blog and everybody at TSW when I say that Will Bray will be missed in that locker room. Zach Hogan will be missed in that locker room. A lot of great guys are going to have an opportunity to step up but definitely still a void felt at this point. So, Zane, we are running out of time, and just wanted to let you plug the next match there at the Vincennes Eagles Club, and then what happens next from there, and how can people support the TSW?
All right. Absolutely. The next thing that we have going on is July 23rd at the Eagles Lodge. We're doing an event for the Carlisle Lions Community Ambulance Service. I want to make sure I said everything right there. It's been brought to us by our head of security, Andrew. It's his family, and it's something that we want to help. So we've got, I believe, 7 or 8 big matches on the event. The main event is the TSW Southern title match between AJ Riley and Terrence. Let's see. You guys can follow us on Twitter at TSW Unleashed, or you can go to Facebook and follow us on Facebook. We've got a website. There's all kinds of things. Once you hit the Facebook, though, it's got the website on it. It's got the marketplace if you want to go online and buy a TSW logo shirt and things of that nature, which hopefully over the next few months, once my schedule gets a little less crowded with doctor visits and stuff, I'll be able to add more stuff to the TSW online store, and you'll be able to buy cooler things.
Absolutely, and you can always check out TSW through the 10 Count Blog Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram, YouTube, all of the things that 10 Count Blog does. TSW is very much ingrained within that. So, Zane Arkham, thank you again for being on with us today, and want to wish you a speedy recovery from your cancer and hope everything goes well for you.
Thank you, and believe me, so far everything's going great, and you're going to hear it first right here. So if you listen to all this, you're going to hear it first. I will be back September 3rd in a match. Not sure against who yet, but September 3rd, my return match. Make sure you're there at the Eagles.
Absolutely. Thank you for being on with us, Zane.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
Special thanks to Zane Arkham for being on the podcast this week. Before we go, let's get to some upcoming events. Tonight, July the 16th, our newest partner, New Wave Pro Wrestling, presents the Clinton Grand Prix at the Eagles Lodge at 100 South Water Street in Clinton, Indiana. Names on the card include Blake Reed, Jay the Tank Oleander, Staff Sergeant Stanley Roberts, Sam Knight, and Will Bray. Tickets are $7.50 in advance. Check out NWP's Facebook page for more information. At the door, tickets are $12.50. Kids 5 and under are free. Doors open at 4:30. Bell time is at 5:30 Eastern Time. July 23rd, Tri-State Wrestling presents Proving Grounds from the Vincennes Eagles Club. It's the first time they've been back since Night of Champions, and you can expect some craziness. Tickets are $5 at the door. Doors open at 6. Bell time is at 7 Eastern. Also on July 23rd, Coliseum Championship Wrestling presents Retaliation at the historic Veterans Memorial Coliseum at 300 Court Street in Evansville. Doors open at 6:30 Central Time. Bell time is at 7:30. Tickets are on sale now at the Coliseum box office, and you can also get them at the door for $10, $5 with active military or veteran ID. August the 6th, United Wrestling Coalition in Georgetown, Illinois returns to the Homer Opera House at 101 North Main Street in Homer, Illinois for UWC Live. Show is $8 in advance, $10 at the door. Bell time is at 7 p.m. Central Time. Saturday, August the 13th, Sam Knight's Massive Wrestling presents Uprising at the Vincennes University Green Activities Center. This is the inaugural event for this company, and it features the first ever Dr. Isaiah Pops Watson Memorial Cup Tournament. Matches will be announced at a later date. Doors open for that show at 6. Bell time is at 7 Eastern Time. Tickets are on sale now. Get them in advance for $5 or $10 at the door. Check out Massive Wrestling's Facebook page for more information. September 7th, New Focus Wrestling presents Refocused at the Evansville Coliseum at 300 Court Street. The card features names like Rob Conway, Tracy Smothers, Teddy King, Canadian Kid, and many more. Tickets are $8 at the door. Kids 5 and under and active military are free. Bell time is at 7:30. Be sure to support your local indie promotions by checking them out on social media and checking out their websites. Be sure to get out to their shows as well. Help someone working the indie scene get a little closer to their dreams. Find that information on our local indie promotions page at 10countblog.wordpress.com. Before we go, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, and now Google Play. Go rate us, help let the world know about 10 Count Blog and 10 Count Podcast. Also, don't forget to check us out on social media. We've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find links to all of those on this article at 10countblog.wordpress.com. You can also check out our social media and podcast page and find them all there. We're always accepting blog submissions. If you want to write something about wrestling, be sure to send it to us at 10countblog@gmail.com. It can be about any topic you choose as long as it's wrestling related. Thanks to Rollick for allowing us to use Snorkeling into Oblivion as our theme song. Check them out on Facebook and download their music for free. Be sure to check out their events page and get out to one of their shows. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, visit us at 10countblog.wordpress.com, subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Rate us, it takes about 5 minutes. We'll be back next week with a guest to be announced a little bit later on. Until then, thanks for listening to the 10 Count Podcast.